All right, now we're going to start Chapter 1, Section 3. You can find this on pages 15 through 17 in your book. You can see on the screen it's titled Writing Expressions. It's a short lesson, probably 10 or 12 minutes, and a lot of it's going to be kind of familiar to you, I'm assuming. We start every lesson with an objective. Your objective for today is this. Can you translate? That means can you change word phrases into algebraic expressions? That means can you take a word problem and write it into symbols like 2x plus 4 or something like this, okay? So we're going to start by going over some important terms. Here's a little table, excuse me. And on this table, we're going to talk about expressions. So you see the four operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And next to each one of the operations are some words that relate to it. So like for addition, we have sum and plus and total. For subtraction, you see the words minus, decrease by, multiplication, times, product, the word of. I'm not sure if you know that, but the word of means multiply in math. And finally, for division, we have words like divided by, quotient, and so on. So what we're going to do for the next minute or two is give you some verbal phrases. I'm going to give you some words and change those into expressions. And an expression is just a mathematical sentence that uses one of the operation signs and variables or numbers. So let's do the first one. So our first phrase is the sum of 2 and a number x. And notice that they're asking us, or they're telling us, they want the variable to be x. So the number is called x. So when it says sum, we know this is addition. So the sum of 2 and a number x as an expression, so we're going from verbal to expression, is just 2 plus x. All right, and this is what we're doing all section long. Another addition example, a number n plus 7. That's about as easy as it gets. That's just n plus 7 in terms. Now on to some subtraction phrases. The difference means subtract of a number n and 6, which is n minus 6. And then we have a number y minus 5. Again, nothing could be easier than that. That's just y minus 5. Okay, no big deal. It's easy. Right? We get to the multiplication, and the first example, 12 times a number y, meaning we're multiplying 12 times y. Now in algebra, we're not going to use the letter x for a time sign. We're just going to put the coefficient, which is 12, next to the variable, which is y. This means 12 times y. When a number is next to a letter or a coefficient is next to a variable like this, you automatically know it means multiply. And then we have 1/3 of a number x, and this just means 1/3 times x. Okay, this time the coefficient is 1/3. And finally, one example for division says the quotient of number k and 2, so we're dividing quotient, is just k over 2. So k divided by 2 or k over 2. Okay, and you can see a lot more of these. Some will be a little more complicated than what you're given right now. We always start easy, and then we build the intensity and the difficulty as we go. So one of the things that's really important, especially when we're dealing with subtraction and division, is order matters. What I mean by that is this. When you see the problem or the phrase, the difference of a number n and 6, okay? Now, some people are going to think n minus 6. Some people might say 6 minus n. What's the difference? Well, there's a big difference. If it was addition or multiplication, we have the commutative property, which allows us to switch the terms, but not so for subtraction and division. So when it says a difference of a number n and 6, that's n minus 6, not 6 minus n. And the same is true for division. The quotient of k and 2 is k divided by 2, not 2 divided by k, because that could result in two entirely different answers. So when we're dealing with subtraction and division, we got to keep that in mind, that the order is going to be really, really, really important. So here's a few examples. All right, so we have 3 expressions. You might want to pause this for a second, and on the next page, we're going to work each one of these out. So hit pause and read through these, and then hit play when you're ready to start up again. And if you didn't hit pause, we're going to keep going. So the first one says, well, let's just go to the next page. 4 less than the quantity of 6 times the number n. Now, this is a little bit confusing. And you see the answer on the side. So it says 4 less than. Now, some people might write 4 minus. But when it says less than, that means the 4 is going to come at the end of the sentence, not in the beginning of the sentence. And when it says the quantity of 6 times the number n, well, that's just 6n. That's pretty easy. So this is the one example that tends to confuse students sometimes. So when it says 4 less than, that means 4 is at the end. If it says 4 minus the quantity, That means 4 would come at the beginning. The next one says 3 times the sum of 7 and a number y. Now again, compared to the examples you were given in the table on the previous page, these are a little more complicated. So when it says 3 times the sum of 7 and a number y, that means we're doing 7 plus y first, and then multiplying by 3. So it's not going to be 3 times 7 plus y. We have to do 7 plus y times 3, which means we're going to need parentheses. So in this one, it's going to be 3 times, in parentheses, 7 plus y. And then the last one says a difference, that means subtract, of 22 and the square of a number m. Now square means we're raising it to the second power. So the difference of 22 and m squared, or m to the second power, looks something like this. 22 minus m squared. Now, this is a really important skill that we're doing right now because throughout this book, you're going to be reading a lot of word problems, and you're going to be required to write the equations or the expressions or the inequalities that go with it. So if you're having problems or if you don't understand why the answers are what they are, please pause this, come see me, talk to someone at your table. But what we're doing right now are the basics to preparing us for what's going to be happening for the rest of the course. But now we're going to move on. Okay. So now we're going to take a verbal model. This is what we were talking about before. We're going to take words and turning it into a math model, or a mathematical model, which is an expression. So the question says you're working with 5 other people at the ice cream stand, and all of you put your tips into a jar and you share them equally at the end of the day. And we want an expression that shows this situation. Now, this really is a pretty simple problem. So basically what we have are 6 people, that means you and 5 other people, who take your money, you put it into a tip jar, and then when your day's over, you're going to split it up evenly. So what we have to do first is identify a variable. In this case, since they have the word amount in here somewhere, I think, or maybe there's not, but we know that that's going to be the total amount. We're going to let A equal the amount. Excuse me, that means the amount of tips. You could use T for tips. The variable doesn't really matter. Okay? Since there's 6 of you and you're sharing it equally, sharing is another way of saying division, that means what we're going to do is we're going to take the tips, divide it 6 equal ways. So the expression is really very simple. It's just going to be A divided by 6. And that's our expression. In the next section, chapter 1.4, we're going to be going into solving equations. So we're going to do more than this, but for right now, we're just writing expressions to prepare us for what's coming up down the road. Now, we're going to do a couple more word problems, and they're going to include or involve what are called rates. So you've probably heard of rates before, like your rate of pay, your rate of speed, something like that. And all rate is a fraction that compares 2 different quantities that are measured in different units, meaning like miles per gallon or feet per second or something like that. And then we have special kinds of rates called unit rates. And a unit rate is when the denominator, that means the bottom number, is 1. That means how many miles for 1 gallon of gas or something like that. So here's kind of an example. Let's say something costs $480, like you're renting something for $480 for 8 hours. This would be called the rate. And we're comparing 2 different things, money and time. Now, if we did the division, this would come out to $60 per hour. The word per means every year, So we're talking about the unit rate. That means when the denominator is 1 means unit, or unit means 1, we have what's called the unit rate. So now let's do a problem with this. Okay, car travels 110 miles in 2 hours. That's a rate, 110 miles to 2 hours. We need to find the unit rate. So we have 110 miles over 2 hours. This rate is comparing distance to time, miles to hours. Now we want the denominator to be 1, and that'll be the unit rate. So to get 2 hours into 1 hour, we need to divide the top and the bottom by 2, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And that's going to give us 55 miles for every hour, or 55 miles per hour. And since there's a 1 in the denominator here, 55 miles per hour, this would be the unit rate. So the answer to the question is the unit rate is 55 miles per hour, or 55 miles per hour. Okay? It's really not that difficult. And again, it's probably something you did in a previous class. Okay, now I believe this is our last problem for the whole entire section, so we're just about done. So again, you might want to pause your iPod or pause this movie for a second, read it, and then on the next page, we'll solve it together. All right, so let's read through this first, and then we'll go to the next slide, and we'll get to work on it. This is about cell phones, and it says your basic monthly charge for a cell phone is $30 a month, and that includes 300 free minutes. But you have to pay a fee for every additional minute used after 300 minutes. And you remember that 1 month you paid $3.75 for 15 extra minutes. And what they're asking is this: what if 1 month you used 22 extra minutes? What would be your total bill? How much would your cell phone cost for that month? And again, the math isn't all that difficult, but what we're doing right now is turning this into an expression. So the first thing we need to do is find a piece of information. And that's this: we need to know the unit rate, because we can't really find out how much these extra minutes are going to cost us unless we know how many cents per minute each one of the extra minutes cost. And in our problem, we remember it said that 1 month, it was $3.75 for 15 extra minutes. So we're going to find the unit rate for this. We're going to divide the top and the bottom by 15. That'll change the denominator into 1. And I've done the math for you here. You could use a calculator if you need to. But that comes out to 0.25 or 25 cents for every minute. That's a lot of money for every extra minute. So you don't want to go over those 300 minutes. So $3.75 for 15 minutes translates into 25 cents per minute. So now we know each extra minute is going to cost us a quarter. So now we can take this information, go to step 2, even though it still says step 1, sorry about that. We're going to write and evaluate the expression for this. So if you think about it, there's 2 things you have to pay for. You pay your basic fee, which is $30, and then you pay for the extra minutes, which we now know is 25 cents for every minute. So the 30 represents the $30 per month, the 0.25 represents the quarter for every additional minute, and M is going to stand for every extra minute over 300. Now they ask us to evaluate. That means to put the number in and find out what the answer is. So we're going to substitute 22 in for M. That's easy. And again, being the nice guy I am, I've done the math for you. That comes out to $5.50. And if you don't believe me, you can check it on a calculator. And when we add these together, we get $35.50. Now, one of the things I want you to get used to in this class is when you're given a word problem, such as this, you're going to answer with words. Don't just write down 35.50. The answer to this problem is this: the cell phone bill will be $35.50 for 22 extra minutes. Meaning, if you go a month and you get 22 extra minutes added on, your total bill is going to be $35.50. So our objective was to take words like these, turn them into expressions like these, and to evaluate them like this. So we met our objective. Plus we learned a little bit more about rates and unit rates. Now it's time for you to get started on your practice work. You're going to find the work on page 18 in your book, and look on the board if you're in the classroom right now, or check on your map to find out which numbers you're doing. If you have questions about any of these things, you can ask. The answer sheets are going to be on the wall, so you can just check the answers. Make sure you're copying down the problems, or you won't get credit for this stuff. Do your best work. Do it neatly, please. Make sure your name's on top of the paper, and keep it inside your spiral notebook, because I'll probably just check this off. When you're done, and I've checked you off for this section of homework, you can move on to section 1.4, which is writing equations and inequalities. So thanks for all your hard work. Again, see me if you have any questions, and get going on your practice work and start chapter 1.4 when you're done. Thank you.